Hey there, you ever sit in silence and hear a voice that is almost yours, but not quite? Welcome back to Jackson, English Stories. And if this is your first time, I am really glad you are here, because today we are not just learning English, we are listening to something deeper. Let me ask you this. When you think in English, whose voice is it? Is it sharp? Polished, echoing your teacher's tone? Or maybe it sounds like that podcast host who never hesitates. That app voice, the one that says, "Repeat after me," robotic, unfeeling. Because for years, my voice in English, it was not mine. It was assembled, cut and pasted from scripts I memorized, from teachers I admired, from accents I tried to own. And I could speak, but I could not feel. I could explain ideas, but I could not express me. And then I realized, fluency is not just speaking English, it is speaking yourself in English. That changes everything. You know, I used to chase fluency like it was a finish line, right accent, fast response, clean grammar, but inside, empty. People would say, "You sound great," but then someone would ask, "So, how do you feel about that?" And my mind would blank. Because grammar does not hold your heartbreak. Flashcards do not teach you how to say, "I miss you," and mean it. And repetition? It can build habits, but not identity. I needed a voice that was mine. Not native, not perfect, just honest. So let me ask again. When you speak English in your head, what does it sound like? Is it tight, mechanical, full of fear, or soft, slow? Searching? Do you hear full sentences or just scattered words like need, maybe, later, sorry? That voice. It is not just practice. It shows you not just how much you know, but how much you allow yourself to say. You want to sound natural. Then you have to start with what is true. You have to stop borrowing someone else's voice and start building your own. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out, not by mimicking, but by listening. To your pauses, to your fears, to that sentence you never said because you did not know how, or were too afraid to try. And maybe this sounds vague. Maybe you are thinking, okay, but how? Stay with me, because in this next hour we are not chasing fluency. We are waking up your voice, the one that feels like you, and it starts right here. Tell me, when you speak English in your head, who do you hear? And if you are willing, drop a comment. Share one sentence your inner voice says. Not to impress, not to perform, just to be real. I am listening. You know what people often tell me? I shadow every single day, and I still sound like I am faking it. And honestly, I know that feeling too well. Shadowing seems perfect on paper. You listen, you repeat. You copy. Every pause, every rise and fall. Every sound. But here is the part nobody talks about. Shadowing can teach your mouth to move, while your heart stays silent. That was me. I shadowed TED Talks like a machine, clean, sharp, fluent on the surface. But one day, someone asked me, "So what do you really think about that?" And all my words scattered, because I had voices, but no voice. I had rhythm, but no roots. That is the trap. When shadowing becomes performance, it trains your lips, but not your soul. I remember one sentence I used to shadow over and over from a film. "I am fine, I am just tired, that is all." I nailed it, every intonation, every breath. But one day I stopped, and I asked, what does it actually mean to say that? Because sometimes, "I am fine" is just a cover, a disguise. It means, I am breaking, and I do not know how to explain it. And I am tired? It is not about sleep. It is about the weight of pretending. That moment changed everything for me. Suddenly, shadowing was not just mimicry. It became memory. It became therapy. It became mine. Because a sentence once felt is no longer someone else's. It becomes a truth you wear. So here is a little exercise for you. Not just to speak English, but to feel it. Say this out loud. I do not know what to say. Now, say it like you are frustrated. Go ahead. Let the tension rise. I do not know what to say. Again, say it like your voice is breaking. Like the words are heavier than your chest can hold. I do not know what to say. Now whisper it, as if it is something you are afraid to admit. Same line, but suddenly, it is not about grammar. It is about grief. And that is shadowing. Not rehearsal for sounding perfect, but rehearsal for being real. When you add emotion, you stop mimicking, you start owning, because your voice is not built by echo. It is built by honesty. So tomorrow, when you shadow that podcast or movie line, do not just ask, did I say it right? Ask, did I mean it? Because one simple question can shift everything, not just how you sound, but how you show up in English and in life. Let me ask you something strange. When you think in English, whose voice do you actually hear? Is it truly yours? Or is it someone else's? Someone you have copied so many times, their words became yours before you even noticed. That is the part nobody warned you about. Most of us never create our English voice. We inherit it. From classrooms, from apps, from voices that spoke at us, not to us. And so, piece by piece, we build a voice like patchwork. It sounds right, but it never fits. Until one day, you are speaking, and something inside you goes quiet. The words come out, but they do not feel real, not like you. Like you are playing a role in someone else's script. That moment is where fluency meets fracture, because fluency without self is just echo. And echo never tells the truth. I still remember the question that broke me. Someone asked, how do you see yourself in 5 years? Simple. Friendly, not a trap, but I froze. Not because I lacked the grammar, not because I did not know the words, but because the voice I had been practicing was never meant for something that personal. It could order food, it could pass a test, but it could not dream. That voice was made for function, not for feeling. And here is the harder truth. If your English voice was trained to obey, who will teach it to speak freely? Do you have words for grief? For jealousy? For that feeling you get when you miss someone, but cannot say it? Or are you still stuck in polite templates and correct grammar, while your real thoughts wait in silence? Maybe a part of you says, but I need rules, I need structure. Yes, structure helps. But structure without soul is a cage with clean lines, and somewhere deep down, you already feel that. You feel it in those quiet seconds when you want to say something real, but you do not. You want to speak, but the words feel like guests, not family. Not yours. So the next time you hear your inner English voice, pause, really listen. Does it sound like your truth or just your training? Because if it is training, that is okay. That means there is still time to unlearn, to rebuild, to give that buried voice, the one under all the shoulds and musts, a chance to speak. Maybe today, you give it that chance, and maybe, for the first time, it speaks back. There was a time, not that long ago, when I had the grammar. I had the vocabulary, I knew all the phrases, but inside it was quiet. Too quiet. I remember sitting across from someone I cared about. We were speaking in English. Well, they were speaking, and I was just nodding, smiling, pretending I was part of it, but in my mind, nothing moved. I had thoughts, big ones, memories I wanted to share, questions I wanted to ask, but they were stuck, not because I lacked English, but because I did not know how to feel in English. Strange, right? You spend years learning how to speak, only to realize you never learned how to be. I could describe a picture, compare cities, explain the past perfect continuous, but I could not say, I miss who I used to be. I feel small when I am not understood. I wish I could stop translating my pain. That kind of English, nobody teaches you that. And here is the part that stung most. Part of me did know what I wanted to say, but another part whispered, they will not get it. You will sound strange. This is not the right time. So I stayed silent, and silence hurts more when it is chosen. Not because someone stopped you, but because you stopped yourself. That is inner silence, and it is not quiet at all. It is loud. It is full of unfinished thoughts and words you are too afraid to test. It is that pressure in your chest, when your voice is almost there, but not quite. Have you felt that? That strange ache when someone asks, "Are you okay?" And you want to say, "No, not really." But instead, you nod and say, "Yeah, I am fine." Because that line is easier, safer, rehearsed. And maybe that is what scared me most. Not that I did not know how to speak, but that I was becoming fluent in hiding. You see, English is not just a language. It is a mirror, and sometimes we avoid the mirror, because once you see yourself clearly, you cannot unsee it. So if you are feeling that silence too, that space inside where your real words are waiting, know this: you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not bad at speaking. You are just learning how to be honest in a voice that still feels unfamiliar. And that takes time, but more importantly, it takes kindness. So be kind with your silence. It is not failure, it is your voice, learning how to become real. I kept saying the same things, over and over. Each morning, I shadowed my favorite podcast. Each evening, I spoke to the mirror, full sentences, clear and precise. It looked impressive, it sounded fluent, but something was missing. And I could not name it, until one night. I stopped. I looked at myself and whispered, I am doing everything right. So why does it still feel wrong? The sentence dropped. No echo, no emotion, no response, just silence, like I was speaking into a hallway, and the hallway refused to speak back. And that is when it hit me. You can build an echo chamber in your own mind, a loop of words, beautiful on the surface, but empty on the inside. You rehearse, you repeat. You perfect the sound, but nothing lands, nothing lives. Because repetition without emotion becomes noise, predictable, hollow. It is like playing the piano with no music in your chest. You hit all the notes, but you do not know the song. And maybe that is where you are right now. You practice, you memorize. You repeat entire dialogues, and still something feels missing. So let me ask you, and this might sting a little, before you speak a sentence, do you feel it? Do you breathe through it? Or are you just hoping that one day the rhythm will click? Because here is the strange truth. Fluency is not about speed. It is about depth. It is about how much of you enters the sentence. Most of us skip that part. We shadow with our mouths, but not with our hearts. I remember practicing this simple line for weeks. It has been a long day. I repeated it 100 times, but it meant nothing. Until one evening after a real, hard, quiet day, I stood outside, looked up, breathed out, and said it again. It has been a long day. But this time, I meant it. And suddenly the sentence had weight. It was no longer English. It was mine. That moment changed everything, because now I knew the power of language does not come from repetition. It comes from truth. So if you are stuck in the echo, here is your way out. Stop chasing perfect. Start chasing real. Before you shadow your next line, ask yourself, have I ever felt this? If yes, pause. Let the feeling in. Say it again. slower, truer, if no, even better. You just found a sentence worth living, because that is where fluency begins. Not when a sentence sounds right, but when it belongs to you. You cannot echo what you never felt. That was what my mentor told me, and honestly, I did not get it at first. I thought shadowing was the goal. Repeat, match the accent, copy the rhythm. Sound like a native, job done. But he looked me straight in the eye and said, "If you do not feel it first, your echo is just noise." That sentence stopped me, because it made everything I had been doing feel hollow. I had been echoing voices for years, but I never once paused to ask, what does this feel like? Not what I feel, but what the sentence feels. The doubt wrapped inside, I am not sure. The quiet ache in, it is okay. The fragile hope hiding in, I will try again tomorrow. And suddenly, language changed. Not into something harder, just something heavier, more alive. Because now, before I shadow anything, I stop. I breathe, and I ask one thing. When have I felt this before? That pause changed how I speak, not by slowing me down, but by waking me up. Let us try it together. Say this line out loud. I wish I could forget. Again. I wish I could forget. Now stop. Do not repeat it yet. Let your breath hold it. Let your body remember what it means to wish, to regret, to carry a memory like a stone under your ribs. Now say it again. I wish I could forget. Did you feel it shift? That is not pronunciation. That is presence. Because words are not just sounds. They are small containers of the human condition. Miniature stories. And when you speak without emotion, you are just reading subtitles off a screen. But when you feel first, speak second, you give the sentence a soul. You give it breath. You give it a place to land. So here is your challenge. Next time you shadow, do not go fast. Do not aim for many lines. Choose one, just one. Feel it, live it, say it with your chest. For example, I miss you. Now say it when you are tired. Say it when you are full of gratitude. Say it like a whisper to someone you never said goodbye to. And in that moment, it is no longer practice. It is real. It is yours. That is where fluency begins. Not when your English is perfect, but when your English starts to feel like home. Let me ask you something real. When you speak English, does it sound like you, or does it feel like someone else wearing your mouth? For the longest time, my English voice felt foreign, not because of the accent, but because it was too perfect. Too polite, too rehearsed. It sounded like a guest in my own skin. And that was exhausting. Because your true voice, the one that feels like home, is not just made of grammar. It is made of rhythm, of breath, of pauses that hold emotion, of memories that shaped your silence, of culture you carry without even thinking about it. If you do not bring all of that, your English will always feel like a costume, something you put on, not something you live in. So the question becomes, how do you build a voice that feels like you? For me, it started with the mirror, but not for checking pronunciation, not for fixing my lips. For something deeper. I stood in front of it, looked into my own eyes, and said, I am not okay right now. And I watched. My voice cracked. My shoulders stiffened. My eyes flickered, because I was not just practicing a sentence, I was practicing honesty. Then I tried again. Same line, different emotions. I said it like I was angry, then like it was a joke, then like I was whispering it to someone I loved but could never fully trust. Same words, different truths. That is emotional scripting. Letting one sentence carry every shade of who you are. And after that, I turned off the mirror. Closed the script and just spoke, no plan. No filter, no grammar check. That is free speaking. It is messy, it is raw, it is real. And sometimes it is the only place where I find me, because fluency is not about perfection, it is about permission. The permission to sound like yourself, even if your voice shakes, even if the sentence is broken, even if no one claps after. So here is your challenge. Find one line, just one, that feels like it holds something you have never said. Try this one. I want to say this, but I do not know how. Say it to your reflection. Say it to your fear. Say it to the silence that always shows up before you speak. And say it again, not until it sounds perfect, but until it sounds honest. Because that is when English stops being a language you borrow and starts becoming your voice. It just came out, no planning. No pause, no panic, just one sentence in English that felt like breath. Unfiltered, untranslated, alive. I still remember where I was, a crowded station, tired. Rushed, a little lost. And suddenly, I was standing at an information desk saying, "Hey, I know this sounds dumb, but I think I missed my train. Can you help me figure out what to do?" That was it. Not perfect, not polished, but real. I had not rehearsed it. I had not checked it in an app. I had not asked myself, is this correct? It just came from me. And for a second, I froze, because something felt different, lighter. I had not translated. I had not hesitated. The words had come straight from urgency, from emotion, from truth, and in that split second, I saw it. This is what fluency feels like, not the grammar, not the accent, but the release, the sense that your voice is no longer something you borrow, but something you trust. I had always thought I needed to prepare, to memorize, to earn the right to speak. But that moment taught me something no class ever did. When the feeling is real, the language follows. It was not about vocabulary. It was not even about courage. It was about trust, trusting that what I had, even if messy, was enough. And that changed everything, because I was not performing, I was present. You know those moments when you speak and only afterwards realize what you just said? That is flow, that is real language. Not because it is perfect, but because it is you, unfiltered. And once you taste that, even once, you want it again. You start practicing, not for perfection, but for presence. You stop chasing control, and fluency starts chasing you. So, if you are still waiting for the right moment, that perfect pause when everything clicks, let me say this gently. It might never come. But this moment, right now, with all your doubts, your half-formed sentences, your heavy heart, this is the moment. Because fluency does not live in textbooks. It lives in the chaos of being human, in another language. So let it out. Let it be raw. Let it be wrong. Let it be yours. That is where English becomes something more. Not something you study, something you live. Here is something I wish someone had told me earlier. Words are slow. But feelings, they move in full sentences. And that was why my English always felt like it was dragging behind me. I kept thinking in pieces. Go, shop, tomorrow. Nervous. Little word crumbs, like puzzle bits with no picture. But that is not how we think when we are honest. When we are in pain, when we are human, you do not wake up and think, emotion. Sad, me, bad. You think, I do not want to get out of bed today. A sentence. With breath, with rhythm, with a shape that holds your emotion. And when I realized that, it hit me. I had been building English like Lego blocks, carefully, correctly, but always missing the bigger shape. So I stopped. I stopped asking, what word comes next, and started asking, what do I feel, fully? That shift changed everything. I began building an emotional phrase book, not academic. Not fancy, just real. Sentences like, I am not sure I belong here. This is not what I expected. Can we just start over? I don't even know how to explain it. Those lines. They carried me, not because they were complex, but because they were whole. So here is the shift. Stop thinking in single words. Start collecting emotional sentences, chunks. Not crumbs. Let me show you what I mean. Instead of, tomorrow, speak, boss, nervous. Try. I have a meeting tomorrow, and I am kind of nervous about it. That is not impressive. It is just complete, because when your thoughts feel whole, your voice stops hesitating. You do not need the perfect word. You let the sentence carry the emotion, and it will carry it, because your brain was not built for rules. It was built for rhythm. That is why music sticks, why lyrics stay. Why a line from a movie can live inside you for years, because it was not just language, it was memory. So from today, I want you to build a new kind of phrase book, not useful expressions, but honest moments. Sentences for when you feel lost, tired, hopeful, embarrassed, grateful. Try these. I don't know what I'm doing. That really meant a lot to me. It is hard to explain, but I think I care more than I want to admit. Say them. Write them. Whisper them in the shower if you have to. Let them live inside your chest, because one day someone will ask, how do you feel? And instead of searching a dictionary, you will pause, and the answer will already be waiting inside you. Let me tell you something strange, and maybe a little quiet. The biggest shift in my English did not happen when I spoke more. It happened when I stopped speaking at all, not awkward silence. Not the kind where you are stuck, staring at the floor, afraid to say the wrong word, but real silence. Still. Soft, awake. It started with a walk. No phone, no headphones, no app telling me what to repeat. Just me. And a language I was learning to carry. I remember passing a bakery and thinking, that smells like something warm I forgot I missed. Not perfect, not polished. But mine, no one heard it, but I did. And that changed something in me, because for the first time, I was not trying to perform English. I was just being in it. No audience, no filter, just thoughts. Moving naturally, in a language that used to scare me, and in that silence, I found something I never expected. Clarity. Because silence is not absence. It is where your real voice begins to speak. It is where your English stops being a skill and starts becoming a space. A place where your thoughts stretch their legs, where they whisper instead of shout, where they finally get the chance to finish their sentences. So I started practicing what I call quiet fluency. 5 minutes, every day. No speaking. No writing, just thinking. Full sentences. With breath, with rhythm, with feeling. Sentences like, I wish I had told her the truth. This afternoon feels heavier than usual. I wonder what my English will sound like when I finally stop apologizing. At first, it felt pointless, like talking to a version of me that might never answer back. But slowly, something shifted. The sentences got longer, smoother, more honest. And when I finally spoke again, it flowed. Not because I drilled more, but because I had listened more. That is the power of silence. It does not push, it allows. It opens a door inside you and lets your voice walk through at its own pace. So if your English feels cluttered, noisy, always chasing the next word, try this. Find a quiet place. Sit with your thoughts. No goal, no performance, just one sentence, real, unfiltered, unfinished. Let it come, let it land, let it stay. Because sometimes the most fluent version of you is the one that does not say anything, just listens. And in that silence, you might finally hear a sound that feels like home. You, Your inner voice. It is like any other muscle. Ignore it, and it fades. Use it only in crisis, and it stiffens. But give it gentle, daily attention, and it grows. Not louder, but truer. And no, I am not talking about grammar drills or timed conversations. I am talking about presence. Simple, quiet practice, 10 minutes, every day. No audience, no pressure, just you, showing up for yourself. Here is how it began for me. Each morning, as I made coffee, I would narrate, in English, softly. Sometimes in my head, sometimes just loud enough for the spoon to hear. Water's boiling. My hands feel colder than yesterday. I really hope today moves slower. I should have slept more. No rules. No editing, just flow. And slowly, something shifted. The hesitation faded. The silence between thoughts got smaller. And instead of waiting for the right word, the sentence just came. Because I was not performing. I was practicing trust. And that is what this voice needs most. Not just repetition, but reassurance. It needs to know that when it shows up, unpolished, awkward, unsure, you will not push it away. You will not shame it back into silence. You will listen, like a friend, like someone you want to grow with. So this is what I tell every learner I meet. Narrate your life. Gently, lovingly, like someone who believes the way you speak deserves space, not for speed, not for perfect grammar, but to remind yourself, this is how I build a voice I can keep. So try this, while walking, while cleaning, while staring out the window. Say the small things. The light feels softer today. I am not sure why this moment matters, but it does. I am nervous and I kind of like it. That is training, not for a grade, but for real life, where fluency is not about fast replies, but about real presence. And here is what will surprise you. The more you do it, the less you have to try. The voice begins to show up on its own because now it knows it is welcome. It is no longer a stranger, no longer a shadow, no longer just background noise. It is a muscle, and it remembers exactly who you are becoming. You know what takes real courage? Listening to your own voice, not when you are rehearsed, not when you are performing. But when you hit record, say what is true, and then press play. To hear yourself exactly as you are. It sounds simple, but it is one of the hardest things I ask my students to do. Because here is what usually happens. You speak, 1 minute, just your thoughts. Then you listen. And suddenly your brain turns on itself. Why do I sound like that? My voice is so awkward. I pause too much. I sound unsure, fake, weak. And most people, they stop right there. Delete the file. Retreat into silence. But what if you stayed? What if you kept listening? Not to criticize, but to understand. What if you asked, is this how I really feel? Am I rushing because I am nervous? Did I say what I believe or what I thought I should say? Because that 1 minute, because that raw, unedited, unfiltered. It is not just audio, it is a mirror. It reflects your rhythm, your fear, your truth, and once you hear it, you get to choose. Not to be better, but to be more you. That is what I call record. Reflect, realign. Here is how it works. Step 1. Record. 1 minute, talk about your day, a memory, a worry, a dream, anything real. Step 2. Reflect. Listen not for mistakes, but for tone, for tension, for distance between your voice and your truth. Step 3. Realign. Say it again, same thought, slower, softer, with breath. Drop the armor. Drop the performance. Speak like someone is listening, and they care, and that someone can be you. Because you would be amazed how much your voice transforms when you stop pretending. You soften, you ground. You begin to sound like someone who believes their words matter. I remember recording this once. I'm fine, just tired. Long day. When I played it back, it sounded cold, dismissive, mechanical. So I tried again. Same words, different rhythm. I'm fine, just tired. It's been a long day. Same content, new meaning. It felt like I had finally told myself the truth, and that is the power of reflection. We do not just improve by speaking more. We improve by hearing who we are becoming. So tonight, try this. Just 1 minute. No script. No grammar filter. Then press play and ask, does this sound like me? And if the answer is not yet, but almost, that is enough. Because almost means you are already closer than you were yesterday. You have probably been told this before. Language is logic. Follow the rules. Understand the system. It will all make sense. And maybe that works. For grammar, for exams, for structure. But when it comes to fluency, to expressing who you are, to saying something that actually matters, language is not logic, it is memory, it is emotion. It is experience, unfiltered. Let me tell you why. There was this moment, not dramatic, not loud, just one quiet question from someone I trusted. So, how do you feel about going back home? And just like that, I froze. Not because I did not understand the words, but because the answer inside me had no English yet. It was too messy. Too full of things I had never dared to translate. Too human for anything I had practiced. So I said the first thing that came to mind. I feel strange. But strange was a lie. Not because it was false, but because it was incomplete. It did not carry the guilt, the distance, the longing for a version of home that might not exist anymore. Because here is the truth. Sometimes the vocabulary exists, but your soul has never rehearsed it. You have never practiced saying, I feel like I outgrew the place I was supposed to belong to. I miss something I cannot even name anymore. I am scared I no longer fit anywhere. No one teaches you that in class. These are not textbook phrases. These are emotional coordinates, and real fluency lives there. Not in the accuracy, but in the courage to name what you carry. Because here is what I learned. You do not speak what you know. You speak what you can feel, and if you have never felt it in English, you cannot say it in time. You hesitate. You disconnect. You go silent. So let me ask you, what emotion can you still not say in English? Is it grief, shame, desire? Hope? Jealousy? Peace? Pick one, just one. Now write a sentence, imperfect, raw, real. Sometimes I wish I had stayed quiet. I miss the part of me that trusted easily. I am angry at how long it took me to speak. Say it. To yourself, out loud. Because the moment you give that feeling a voice, even in a language that still feels foreign, you make it yours. You stop translating survival and start expressing truth, and that is what real fluency sounds like. Not perfect grammar, but full presence. To say what still matters, and mean it. Let's talk about something real. Not grammar, not pronunciation, but the thing that kills your English voice before a single word comes out. Fear. Not the loud kind, not the I am scared of public speaking kind, but the quiet fear, the one that lives inside your breath, the one that shows up just before your voice does. The kind that whispers, what if I say it wrong? What if they do not get me? What if I sound stupid? What if I mess up again? That fear. It does not scream. It circles. Over. And over and over. I call it the fear loop. Here is how it works. You doubt yourself, so you go silent. The silence makes you feel disconnected. That disconnection creates delay, and the delay becomes your habit. And day by day, you stop speaking. Not because you cannot, but because you have started believing that your voice is not worth the risk. I know that loop too well. I lived inside it. There was a time when I rehearsed conversations in my head, word for word, every possible reply, every possible outcome. But when it was time to speak, nothing, blank. Still, because fear does not care how prepared you are. It only asks one thing: what if you fail? And the more you hear that question, the more fluent you become at hiding. But here is what changed my life. You do not lose fluency, you lose courage. Your words are still there. Your sentences are still there. Even your stories, still waiting. What is missing is space. Safe space, a space where your voice can be shaky, where it can crack, where it can say something messy and still be heard. Because if you do not have that, you will perform, not connect. You will hesitate, not express. You will disappear while still speaking. So what do? We create the space ourselves, bit by bit, word by word. Maybe it is talking to someone who just listens. Maybe it is whispering in the kitchen at 10 p.m. Maybe it is writing the sentence you fear most and reading it aloud, trembling, because the only way out of the fear loop is through real voice, not perfect voice. Not clean, textbook voice, but raw, human. Yours, and the more you let it out, even if it shakes, the more courage comes back. Slowly. Gently. But it comes. Because fluency was never about being fearless. It was always about this, being brave enough to speak anyway. You know by now, I am not a fan of empty repetition, just shadowing for the sake of sounding fluent. Sure, it gives you speed, maybe pronunciation, but it will not give you a voice that feels like you. So here is how I do it. Here is how I teach it. I call it shadowing with soul. And it comes down to 3 simple rules. 1. Repeat with rhythm. 2. Speak with feeling. 3. Pause with purpose. Let's break them down. 1. Repeat with rhythm, not just syllables. Not just noise, but flow. Language is music. Even English. And when you speak with rhythm, your brain starts to believe the sentence belongs to you. Try this line. I've been thinking about it all day. Now say it again. Not faster, smoother. Let the sentence ride your breath. No force, no stress. You will notice your body softens. And when your body softens, your memory sharpens, your voice grounds, your fluency flows. 2. Speak with feeling. This changes everything. Stop chasing correctness. Start chasing connection. Try this line. I can't believe you said that. Now say it angry. Now say it hurt. Now say it like a teasing joke to a close friend. Same line. 3 emotions. 3 different stories. That is fluency. Not just choosing the right words, but carrying their emotional weight. The more you practice speaking with feeling, the less robotic you sound, and the more human you become. A voice that feels, a voice that lands, a voice that belongs. 3. Pause with purpose. This is the most underrated skill in language. We fear silence. We rush through it. We fill every space with sound. But real speakers, they pause. They give their thoughts room to breathe. They let the meaning settle. So when you shadow, do not just copy the sound. Copy the silence, because sometimes that is where the message lives. Try this. I don't know what to say. Now again, I don't know what to say. Hear the difference? The pause told the story. The pause added honesty. Sometimes, what you do not say can be more powerful than what you do. So from now on, when you shadow, do it with soul. Do it like your voice matters. Do it like English is not just a script, but a language you are becoming. Because once your shadowing carries emotion, your fluency becomes inevitable. Sometimes, all it takes is one phrase. Just one. Not a fancy idiom, not a perfect sentence from your textbook. Not something rehearsed, just a moment. When you say something in English that is so real, so raw, you actually hear yourself for the first time. For me, that phrase was, "I don't want to pretend I'm okay." 6 ordinary words. But when I spoke them, something inside me shifted. It was late at night. I was talking to a friend. In English, they asked, "How are you?" You know the drill. The script. The safe answers. "I'm fine. I'm okay. Just tired." And I almost said it. But that night, I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to shrink, or perform, or dodge the truth. So I breathed, felt the tightness in my chest, and I said it, gently, honestly. "I don't want to pretend I'm okay." And the silence after, it was louder than any sentence I'd ever spoken, because that silence, it held me. No correction. No hesitation, no mask. That was the night I realized fluency is not when you speak fast. It is when you speak true, and once you touch that feeling, you cannot go back. You stop chasing perfection. You stop fearing judgment. You start chasing something else. Truth. Your truth. In English, not polished, but honest. That one phrase, it changed everything, not because the words were special, but because for the first time, the voice was mine. Not copied, not borrowed, not edited. Just me. So let me ask you, what sentence feels like you when you say it in English? Not the smartest one. Not the most advanced, the most honest. Is it, "I'm afraid of not being understood. I don't feel like myself in English yet. I want to speak, but I'm scared to start." Whatever it is, say it. Write it, whisper it, repeat it until it feels safe in your mouth. Because that sentence, that could be the first key to your real fluency. You want to know when your English voice truly becomes yours. When it starts telling stories, not perfect ones, not dramatic ones. Just true ones. Because that's what language was built for, not tests. Not fancy phrases, but moments. Memory. Meaning. And when your voice shifts from a line to a story, that's when it starts to feel real. You stop practicing, you start remembering. And those memories become motion. Let me show you what I mean. Earlier this week, I sat in a tiny cafe near my apartment. Quiet. Just coffee, soft jazz, and the sound of small lives happening. Outside the window, I saw a man kneel down to tie his daughter's shoelaces. She was maybe 4, tiny, smiling like the world was still new. And without thinking, I whispered, "That reminds me of my dad." Just like that, a story appeared. He used to tie my shoes, too. Double knots. Always double knots. Even when I was older, he'd still check, "Let me see." He never talked much, but I always felt safe. That is storytelling. That is fluency of the heart. No script, no translation, just presence. That's when you stop sounding like a student and start sounding like a soul. And here's the best part. Your story doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be yours. So tonight, try this. Pick one small moment from today. It could be, "I forgot my umbrella and got soaked, but I laughed anyway." "I saw a photo of an old friend and felt something sharp." "I almost sent a message and then deleted it." Now speak that story. Out loud, to yourself, to your reflection. To the wind. And don't worry about correctness. Worry about presence. Ask yourself, did I feel that moment as I spoke it? Did I bring myself into the sentence? Because when your voice begins to tell stories, even the quiet ones, You're no longer borrowing English. You're becoming it. And one day someone will ask you, "Who are you?" And you won't freeze. You won't search. You'll tell a story, and in that story, they'll hear your truth. Because that's when English becomes not just a language, but a part of you. You've made it to the end, and that already tells me something. It tells me you care, that there's a voice inside you, not just trying to speak English, but trying to mean something in English. So let me say this, gently but clearly, your voice is already here. It's not lost, it's not broken, it's not behind. It has always been here, beneath the grammar rules, beneath the fear, beneath the noise of not good enough. You don't need to find it. You just need to use it, softly at first, then slowly with trust. And one day, with a quiet kind of power that doesn't need volume, because it speaks truth. So speak, even if you whisper, even if it's messy, even if the grammar stumbles and your accent shakes. Speak. Not to impress, not to perform, but to express. Because English is not a subject, it's a space, a mirror. A way home to yourself. And if today you feel even a little closer to that voice inside you, the one that pauses, the one that remembers, the one that dares to be real, then this was worth it. So here's my invitation, right now, before you scroll. Before you leave, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is one thought I've never said aloud in English? Now say it, type it, whisper it. Comment it, and if you do, know this, you are not alone. You are not behind. You are exactly where your voice needs you to be, so don't wait anymore. Your voice is here. Use it.